Round 2 we're up against Aelquilibra. This deck has large attacks, so usually they get plus 15k each. 5k from Aelquilibra skill and 10k from Overcharge. With this matchup, I think we should guard early while we can, or guard the attacks we can guard while it's still small, so we have room to take when their units get really big, which is on their grade 3 turn. We have the ideal setup here. We get Negrobone in drop with the Philander Search, and we have Alvina in hand to call the Negrobone. So 3 attacks and we get the draw from Negrobone, which is really good. And on our first turn, so we have 3 attacks on our first turn. Our opponent unfortunately whiffs their search, but they do have Shenri though. And then they attack my rear here, which is very good for me, since I won't have to worry about guarding a Vanguard attack. But they do it so they can proc the Shenri, since we now have 1 or less rear guards. So now they get Soul, plus 5k power, and the draw from Shenri. We do get the Hostage Order early, Flowering Sweet Shop, which is really good since we can now get a lot more value from it. And I won't be afraid to guard with PGs early, since I can just call it back to drop and guard with it with the set order. And we can also call triggers if we want to, or like the effect front for more shield. Our opponent skips the ride phase here, so we don't get to stride instantly, and their restanders will be active next turn since we'll be on grade 3 by then. Gets the OT, and yeah, right here I'm not afraid to use a PG early since we can just call it back to drop and guard with it again with Flowering Sweet Shop. Even though we don't stride, our turns are pretty good because we keep on getting, because we had the early units, and we also have the Negrobone in drop and Alvina in hand, and we have another Alvina, so we can call the PG. So we can either call a Negrobone or a PG. So I decided to call the PG. That's why I guarded with it. That's why I guarded with it earlier, so I can call it back again, getting the value. So our early turns are not bad even without stride, because we have their units. We can keep on doing 3 attacks. The Vanguard is the biggest swing here, so usually if I'm using other decks, I might have no guarded here, but since we're Nightrose and we have a lot of PGs at our disposal, I might as well use it to avoid the risk of getting crit. And yes, our opponent does get a crit, and avoiding getting crit here is big since we have more room to take like the larger attacks with one crit instead of taking two. Aelquilibra is a deck that does not farm as much hand cards as other decks, so as long as we can survive, we will be able to sustain longer, and they won't be able to guard our attacks, especially with the power from the crest scaling. So our opponent calls the restander from drop, but luckily he only has one restander, and he uses divine skill, so we take 1 damage. We're now at 4, so we still have more room to take one more, and our opponent boosts, so we take the big swing first, and I think we're comfortable here. No OT revealed, and we have 2 PGs in hand and then OT, and then the other swings are gonna be easier to guard. Here maybe I could have just get rid of Enlargulv, since next turn we're gonna go Nightrose and probably end it because our opponent is at 5. But maybe I just want to be sure. Oh, actually, yeah, I think I kept the Nightrose. I kept the Philander to bounce back the Nightrose just in case our opponent survive next turn, because you never know, I guess. Like maybe like double heal or something. So here is the Nightrose turn. But I guess I could have called it with Nightrose skill anyway. So yeah, maybe I could have just discarded the Enlargulv with the guard from the PG. And just in case, I call the Alvina to call another PG. Just in case. You never know. So actually learned like this playstyle from my friend Lucef. So before, I usually go double Obadiah before I start striding Nightrose, but a lot of times you deck out or can't put enough pressure, or the game just goes too long. But with going going to Nightrose instantly, you have 5 attacks instantly. But like the trade-off is you have less you flip one less card, and you don't flip a card in your G zone, and you have one less call for free. So you only have the call from Nitro. So usually I just call a PG from Nitro skill, or if I have Alvina, I just call the PG with Alvina. But obviously, like you don't have to force Nitros always. You just check if you can survive next turn, even if you Nitros, then just go Nitros. But sometimes, yeah, you can't. You have to go Obadiah. And I guess Obadiah is not bad, since if your opponent is at high damage, it's like a PG check. Like if they don't have PG, it's gonna be very hard to guard. And it flips an extra card in your Z zone, so it's plus. You get plus. You get more power for that turn and your future turns. And we get crit, so very big or very good. So if our opponent is forced to take this, they cannot heal just once. And that's the game. Thank you for watching.